Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Playing Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, BG, Survive the Spin, FE Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Sea Level Cultist, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, J Mel's 24, Unimento, Iron 26, Endless, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Pardon, Neil? I've only just started, so I'm not paying close enough attention. What did you say?
I just wanted to know who hates us today.
That's not a good way to start. What do you mean, who hates us?
Well, I'm just tired of hearing everything bad everywhere I go.
Say again, Jardo?
You're so negative, Neil.
Yeah. You started.
Neil's so negative.
Who hates us?
Look at the flowers,
FED bad.
Neil.
I went to a couple of places, just being bored and just bouncing around the servers, and it just seems like FED bad everywhere. So I'm just wondering who else is in line today.
I don't know, Neil.
All right, who loves us today?
Everyone in our community loves us, Neil.
I love you, Neil.
See, told you. That is true. The people we actually reach are very appreciative of what we do, Neil. I don't know if you know that, but now if you didn't, you do.
Oh, yeah, like I don't know that. Of course I know this community, but specifically talking about the FED community. Yes, we are loved.
Not that that was what I was necessarily seeking. I mean, getting a few YouTube views would be great, you know. Yeah, me moaning about Dave Weiss yesterday, for example. You know, it's had 500 views, that video. I ain't reaching nobody. It's not reaching the masses that are being utilised, corralled, right? It's not reaching any of them, is it?
Only 500 views for that? Shoot, I thought that would make... Well, everybody loves Dave Scheiss.
Yeah. Is it the uncomfortable truth they want? Definitely not. Satisfying lie has got a queue out the door. Free energy. People love that shit.
Exactly.
People don't want to hear about it. The fact that it's flat, as that's phrased, exactly as that's phrased. The fact that it is flat. Earth, that is. People do not want to hear that. They want to hear the government's lied to you. Because if they hear the government's lied to you, it's not, you were too dumb to realise it was flat. Yeah, it is on you. You were that stupid. Yeah, that's right. Humble yourself at how stupid you were. Yep, you were deceived. No, they'd prefer to hear, your government lied to you. They needed to hide God. So you'd feel less stupid. It's pathetic how people react to this, really, isn't it? When you break it down.
Yes. And that's the whole thing. They're offering something at the end. All we're giving you is what it is. Earth is measured flat. There it is. Oh, you don't we don't have anything to offer them.
Yeah, it annoys people that it's that simple. People want it to be more complicated. Yeah, so that others, smarter than them, have to have broken it down for them. Oh, the Earth curve not being where it should be geometrically is complicated. But I trust in Dave Weiss to do that for me. He can think for me. And now I understand that he understands that we should have had an Earth curve in the way and we don't, therefore it's flat. I kind of understand how that works. So I can blame the powers that should not be for deceiving me. Because I wasn't for deceiving, I'm smart. So, you know, those naughty boys in the governments that deceived us, it was their fault. Not, yeah, it was measured flat the whole time. We were always measuring it flat. We were all so stupid that we just accepted it was ball-shaped after telling ourselves how flat we'd measure it. With all these flat examples. So it's only on you. Yes, you were that stupid. So was I. We all were. It's shocking, isn't it?
I think sometimes you miss the journey. So we all have arrived here where we are now because of many, many years of a journey. So we've arrived at a destination, but there's loads of people that are just starting on their journey and they want to experience the journey. They don't want to just get to the destination. And sometimes you've got to think about what the journey was like.
Yeah.
Oh, I've said this before. We had no choice. When we came in, we had the Feast of Nonsense. That was it. We all were looking right past the flat earth measurements they were giving us, right? But now we offer this to spare them of that horrible freaking journey through freaking La La Land.
Yeah, but what Jardot's saying is people want that journey. They want the conspiratard journey and the discovery of the people want that. They don't want it to just be, yeah, you thought you were on a ball. Yeah, it's measured flat the whole time. They need an in-between.
If I would have stumbled across this and got this right from Jump Street, I would have been the happiest guy around. I had to fight through freaking Ether and Sagnac and Mickelson Morley and all the nonsense. Oh, I changed that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but Neil, you know what you know now because of the journey. If you were to
Negative.
peel back layers when you speak to people, you need to understand all the things that you learnt across the journey.
I disagree. We didn't have Earth measurements. We didn't comprehend that yet. That's why.
Yeah, that's the problem. So that, in my opinion, is the problem. You saying we had the measurements and we just didn't notice that we were measuring it flat the whole time. Yeah, that's the onus is on you then, isn't it? You didn't notice. You looked past the flat measurements you were using in miles or kilometres or heights off surface level. You are to blame. Now you're blaming it on the Feast of Nonsense. No, Feast of Nonsense.
That's not what I'm saying.
Feast of Nonsense comes from people who have filled in their own gaps to save themselves or spare themselves from the humiliation of being this dumb. That is what anti-flat earthism produces. That tripe that we call the Feast of Nonsense is born out of people wanting to avoid the humiliation of realising just how stupid they've been, and their justification creates this La La Land journey that Jardot thinks everyone should be on.
No. See, that's why I like that you continually demonstrate how Earth is measured flat. That's what I'm saying. We didn't have that. I didn't have that. I don't care if we all look past it. You look past it over there measuring how much of a freaking building is missing, only on his freaking stomach. Well, guess what? Now we know that. So now we give this information out. So now if you miss it, then it's on you.
what say you, Jardo? We robbing people of the journey when we tell them Earth's measured flat, and it always was, and any example of Earth being utilised in any way for measurement will be a flat plane of reference. Is that us robbing them of the... Well, you might find out about the 9/11 truth and the JFK assassination and Watergate and the moon landing hoax. If it isn't for us just saying Earth's measured flat, you know, we're kind of robbing people of all that lovely journey of discovery, of lies and deceit.
No, what I'm saying is that you're not robbing anyone of a journey. Everyone here that's in this FED now was on that journey. We've experienced the journey. No one just woke up one day and said, okay, yep, the Earth is flat. I understand everything. What I'm trying to say is that people need to experience the journey because it's human nature. When you go on an adventure and you put yourself out to experience certain things, you want to experience them. And to get the accumulation of knowledge, to get the education, is you have to experience all these things on your journey to accumulate the knowledge. And that's where most of the people here are at. So we can look back and say, oh, that's stupid. Oh, that's feast of nonsense, blah, blah, blah. But you have to acknowledge certain people are at certain periods in their journey.
No. Here we go. Everybody's missing what I'm saying, so maybe I'll just give the frick up.
Yeah, okay. I'm down for that.
I don't know what it would be like to just walk into this and be like, oh, here are the measurements of Earth, and here are the arguments. I don't know what that would be like. I kind of just walked in.
Oh my God. Wow.
Seeing the Dave Weiss kind of stuff first.
You're out of your freaking mind. I'm going back to bed.
Nobody's out of anything. They're just questioning what it'd be like to not come through the nonsense waffle that we came through. That's all they're assessing, Neil. Doesn't mean they're saying that's the right way.
No, they're saying there's a need to go through that. I'm not
Nobody said
hearing
that.
wrong.
No, nobody said that.
No, you need to listen to what I'm saying.
I just wouldn't know what it would be like.
You're not the boss of me.
That's why I hate when people go on and they just throw it in as like a casual thing. You know, lay it down right in the beginning. That's what we used to try to tell Witsit. Establish it right from the beginning how Earth is measured flat. Then if you want to talk about your other bull crap, not Ether, but you know what I'm talking about. So the nonsense that he blabber.
No, you've got
He
to
feels like
explain.
you have to-
Nah, that's unfair on Witsit. You've got to explain all of the skin conditions before you sell the snake oil.
Well, he feels that you have to show the world that we're not spinning. That's his main thing. That's his key argument there. If you could show the world that we don't spin, then we're on a flat plane.
Essential goat.
Hey Nathan, I'm sorry to hear about your father. You okay?
Yeah, I wasn't going to have a show today, but I kind of wanted to take my mind off it.
Yeah, I'll be honest, my father died about 10 years ago. You will think about it a lot, but your outlook on it will change over time. It'll only get better. So, best of luck.
He's not dead
What
yet.
happened?
Nothing. My dad's just in the latter stages of life. What do they call it? Actively dying stage.
My
What
father,
was that? Hold on a second, just
father's
one
death
sec.
was actually hysterical.
Hold on, what did you just say, Clover? Clover says, you won't get money by saying that. Thank you for that pearl of wisdom, Clover.
That is classic.
Say keep it light.
She's saying, don't talk about death, basically. My youngest daughter's advising me, don't talk about death. No one's going to want to give you super chats if you do that. That's what she's saying. She's 6.
Mm.
Okay, I'll take her on her advice and not talk about death anymore. Probably very good advice.
So my father passed in 2017. He suffered severely and from dementia over time. There was a point where he was admitted to hospital, and he had lost a lot of weight and literally was on death's door. And they had posted the old do not resuscitate. And my mum said, no, I'm not going to take this. So she took him back home. And so that was 2014. And he lasted another 3 years at home.
Wow. Fair
Wow.
play to your mom.
So we are talking about death.
Yeah, it seems so, Neil. It's one of those things. Death's part of life. As I tell my kids, neither of them are responding.
Yeah, well, in 10 more years, I'll be 70, so I don't want to hear about that. But when my father passed, it was hysterical because he died like 4 times. 4 times we thought it was it, and he was still going. So it was like kind of funny.
Yeah, it's a bit like that with dementia. They just keep dying. Little pieces by little pieces. Little bits of them die over and over again.
Well, my father had all his wits. He didn't want to live on without my mom, who died 2 years previous. So he just drank himself away. When I said that to the Irish guys I was working with, I said, my father's drinking a freaking pint of vodka a day. I don't understand. The Irish guy was like, oh, good for him. I was like, no, it's not good for him. He's not eating and he's just drinking. He's not going to survive. Leave it to the Irish.
But it'll come to a point, Nathan, where you feel like he's watching over you. And to be honest, that's one of the best feelings ever.
Jolly good. I appreciate
So what
it.
are we reviewing today?
Not. I haven't even turned the projector on. So we're just going to sit and chit chat. Hence me not stopping people talking about death, Neil.
Oh, geez, I was trying to, but you blew that.
Yeah, we're just chit chatting. There's nothing to assess. Like I say, when you're pouring your absolute heart out into pointing out that your community's riddled with shills who are corralling people into a group so they can disband them, I've watched that cycle happen multiple times now. I've been here long enough to watch that happen a few times. People corralled into a little group and then disbanded by the leader of the group. It's amazing watching the cycle happen over and over again until there's seemingly, that's the impression they want to give, nothing left. Oh, there aren't, what, flat earthers? Oh yeah, I remember that from about 6 or 7 years ago, that resurgence. Oh yeah, I remember that. How quaint. But obviously now there's nothing left of that. Like, no, there's an impression that there's nothing left of that. And the initial surge was false anyway, created by people who were, in time, going to turn their backs on the subject because they were never for the subject. They just needed to be in the subject to corral people into those little groups to disband them. Yeah. So back to when you're saying, well, I didn't have the measurements. I just had the feast of nonsense. People prefer the feast of nonsense, Neil. It's us that's created it. There's no dark hidden hand. There's us doing that, creating that nonsense, right? So that's us. It's us and our nonsense, right? Andrew Thomas Young is something in our timeline for us personally. We've witnessed the generation of this material and it being put into our realm by Rumpus and various others, coming up with overcomes for globe rhetoric when you're into the begging the question of a globe after measuring Earth flat a few times. Yeah? Now you're saying, well, if I'd have just had the flat Earth interaction, you're like, well, maybe for you that would have put a stop to it. But for most people, they want to brace against their own stupidity, a recognition thereof, and then they create nonsense as a result of that. So, okay, well, we're in a time where even me, like I say, screaming till I'm blue in the face that's what's going on. Yeah, the masses would still prefer, as Jardot put it, the journey through the nonsense waffle of how it isn't real. What isn't real? Well, let's talk about the thing that isn't real quite a lot to tell you for a brief fleeting moment that it isn't real at the end. If we do at all, we'll just talk about how it doesn't work, the thing that we're trying to, move away from. It's like spending prolonged periods of time with Scientologists telling them how Zeno isn't real and what Zeno wouldn't be able to do and how Zeno couldn't have come into existence and the story of what he's said to have come into existence with and how that story isn't real. So let's go over that story in great detail while we talk about how it isn't. It's like it's a bizarre form of brainwashing where it keeps the rhetoric in the mind's eye of the anti-flat earthers so that the general public can perceive potentially, if they step off the cliff of just believing the Earth's a ball, into the realm of, well, there's a debate to be had, rather than just, oh, I've stepped off the it's a ball, my government tell me so, and stepped into what Neil desires, which is, oh, it was just flat all along and that's how we measure it. If there is no in-between, people have to recognise their own stupidity. That would send them nuts. And so the cycle of people coming up with feast of nonsense garbage will always continue. Thank you.
Well, I thought because all right, the Black Swan. Let's take its trajectory. There's a Black Swan. Then you had 10th Man start coming out with celestial navigation. Then boom, with you can't get an elevation angle from a curved surface. When these things were happening, it was like in my mind, I'm saying, "Oh, this is great. We're just gonna feed this information out, and it's gonna be great." Bad people are going through what I went through. And I think it bothers me because I deal with measurements my whole life. And how were we missing it? How were we not getting it? When I'm listening to the shows on YouTube and you guys are at the Isle of Man and discussing all of this other nonsense when it was right in front of our face, how are we not getting it? That's the part that freaking trips my mind out.
Your brain didn't want to see it.
You gotta suss it out piece by piece. Sorry.
Well, it's the bear that John describes in the basketball when it's count how many dribbles, how many passes, and then you go 67. What about the bear that walked about in the background? I didn't see no bear. Well, let's play you the footage again. See the bear? Oh, yeah. I didn't even notice the bear. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't catch me out twice, really. What colour's the background? Green. What colour was it at the beginning? Green. No, it was red at the beginning. You just didn't notice, did you? And so it goes on. Now, every time you have one of those reveals, you have to accept you did not see. That which was right in front of your very eyes. You didn't notice. You have to accept that. Or not. You can say, no, it's the way my brain functions and come up with loads of justifications for why you didn't see something that was right in front of you. Instead of just accepting that you didn't see it. That is the cycle that we will always go through. No one wants to just put their hands up and... Let's summarise this better. What we experience in Flat Earth debate is a distinct lack of human... what's the word? Humility. Humanity, generally, from what we've experienced here, lacks humility. Would you not agree?
Agreed.
That lack of humility leads to the feast of nonsense. That's what's created that garbage. Not wanting to face how stupid you must have been, how ignorant you must have been, and how blind you must have been. You'll come up with a load of cockwaffle so that you don't have to feel stupid about yourself. I've seen it for 10 years. I've taken part in it for a couple of years. Personally, for my own, I'm stupid and I can't recognise that fact. Now, it's because of this, the hidden hand, the powers that should not be, the government. It's all a conspiracy. Nah, I just didn't see the wood for the trees. I didn't see the bear I was counting the passes. I didn't notice the background change colour. I just didn't notice. I didn't see it. That's on me. It was there. I didn't see it. I'm fallible.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's pretty much it. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what happens. So how can we spare other people from going through that? Oh, that's right. We just tell them how Earth is measured flat and demonstrate it.
That woman in the blouse yesterday, as irritating as it was to you guys, and QE's show was fun. I did enjoy watching it. There was various points in the show where she did actually, the girl in the blue dress or blouse or whatever it was that you were critiquing. She's like, this isn't about whether or not we're at one with Jesus. I was like, at least she recognises the overarching point for her as a Christian. Beyond that, it's moot for her as a Christian. Would you not agree? Interesting folly. Again, with all the same caveats of humility notwithstanding, Neil.
Wait, because I was going in there. I didn't see the whole thing. I had it like disband for about an hour and a half. What did she say about Jesus? What did you just say?
That it's unrelated to whether or not you're walking with Christ.
Understanding our Earth is flat is unrelated to walking with Christ.
Yeah, in essence. QE also said it in a roundabout way when he was like critiquing somebody who was suggesting that the Bible teaches that the Earth is flat. And QE was like, it
No, it
does.
doesn't.
And then he paused and went, no, the examples contain facts that allude to that axiomatically in the descriptions, but there's no, in principle, teaching of an Earth that's flat in the Bible. That doesn't exist. It's just contextually accepted as such in other things that maybe are being taught about. Therefore, in my view, as far as maybe Christians will take the hump with this, it's inconsequential to you as a Christian. It's not being, quote unquote, taught to you. Well, if it's not being taught to you as a lesson that you need to live by or help you in becoming a good person, and it's not helping you follow in Christ's nature or understand that Christ gave himself your sins, if it doesn't align with any of those things, who cares? That would be my attitude to, as an onlooker to Christian well-being, if you will.
No, but I think the whole counsel of God is important. It seems like the beginning, right in the beginning, the word's been corrupted. Just like in the beginning in the garden, how man was corrupted. Satan got his hooks in and corrupted the first few pages of the Bible because it's all laid out right there. Now, show me a sphere in the Bible where it alludes to a sphere or a solar system or anything else like that, but you can't. So I think it is important. You know, they go on about this all the time. The only
you're
thing
asking,
is the blood of Jesus.
you're talking rhetorically. You've got to stop if you're asking questions. Aren't the angels themselves described as, in biblical vernacular, spherically? The angels, that is.
No.
You sure about that? Go and look up a description in the Bible of an angel.
They're described as
In
spheres.
circles.
Yeah, spheres, more specifically.
No, I gotta look that up.
Go ahead.
Using the Bible as a flat earth proof is another feast of nonsense.
Yeah, I'd agree with
But
that.
it depends on how you're using it.
Yeah, there's context that sits within flat Earth paradigms because it can't not. But as I've just said, it's not like it's a teaching aspect of the Bible in any way, shape, or God's not. If I was to humbly suggest, God's not interested in teaching you Earth's flat. It's so benign. It's so beneath and unworthy of what God would want to teach you. It's almost insulting to what God would have to offer. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. Don't take that the wrong way. Like suggesting, oh yeah, if I was to meet God, he'd be teaching me that the grass is green. Like, would he? would he go to that effort, would he? Seems kind of obvious. Seems like it kind of go without saying. Unless you're Lucifer, and then you're going to take something that kind of doesn't need mentioning, because then it hasn't been mentioned. Well, if you're going to twist something, better to twist something that hasn't really had much mentioning. The nature of the surface of the ground doesn't really get much of a mention. Well, I can distort that a bit easier, might be the attitude of Lucifer. You know, see where I'm going with that? Because it's not explicitly taught, it's like seen as indifferent to God, maybe unworthy. I don't know about that, but you know what I'm getting at. Therefore, there's not a lot about it to have to combat with counter rhetoric. Pick something fairly benign and you can distort that. In this case, the entire nature of reality can be distorted because it doesn't get that much of a mention biblically. If that is truly the word of God and the Luciferian way of wanting to distort and invert things, what are you going to pick to distort and invert? Things that are obviously entwined in biblical teachings, or something that is kind of benign and doesn't get taught much about at all? I would pick the latter because it would be easier to distort. So what's he picked? The very nature of our reality at a fundamental core with Earth's surface. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, well, I always read it. It's in Isaiah 14. The desire of Lucifer was to be like the Most High. He wanted to be above the thrones of God. He wanted to be above the stars, above the clouds, above everything, right?
Yeah.
And here we are in heliocentrism, where I'd still say at least 90% of the entire world thinks we're living on a spherical object, right?
Did you look up what an
92
angel
low?
is? Did you look up a biblical description of an angel?
Yeah, it's not that. They talk about spheres as levels, like hierarchy. You understand? It's the first sphere is seraphim, cherubim, and thrones. The second sphere is dominions, virtues, and power. The third sphere is principalities, archangels, and guardian angels. It's totally contrary to that. Above him was seraphim, which each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces. With 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. So there's no sphere there. I don't know where he's got that from.
Well, you literally said it quite a few times. What,
Now, that goes back by people saying that the planets are angels. I seen that on TikTok the other day. My wife said, look, this lady's talking about flat Earth. Piece of nonsense, telling us that the things in the sky are angels and they're alive.
Well, I'm just saying that that's the way it's been distorted. You asked about stuff being described spherically, biblically, and I've given you one, and you've just gone and given me back as spherically described biblically. I'm not wrong, but you're saying, no, that isn't spherically, even though you've said it several times.
No, you say we're at the tip of the sphere, right?
No, spear. That's SP, not SPH.
Okay. All right. So then how is this describing them as, it's just saying the first sphere, and he's giving you 3 angels.
Yeah.
So how is that describing? A cherubim is not a sphere.
I know what a cherub is. It's just a type of angel. But I'm just saying, Neil, you asked and I answered. Did I not? Don't quiz me. I'm not a Bible expert. But you asked, where's the spheres in the Bible? I've given it you. I mean, you could just say thank you. I know you asked rhetorically, but I'm a bit pedantic like that. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry too, because I'm looking for these orbs of angels and I'm not finding it.
But literally, you just read it out.
That's not from the Bible. That's somebody's commentary.
Well, then go and look it up in the Bible. Go and look up how angels...
cherubim?
All right, yeah. Cherubim and various other different types of angels, and how they're described as actually appearing. Yeah?
I just read it to you.
I know you did. But then you told me that wasn't from the Bible. So what do you
No,
want?
I read the 6 wings. Where's the sphere in 6 wings?
I
Each
don't know.
with 6 wings, with 2 wings that covered their faces, with 2 that covered their feet, and 2 that were flying. That's how they describe the angels, the cherubim.
That's
I mean,
pretty
the
crazy.
seraphim. I'm sorry.
That's pretty crazy description right there.
Give me 2 minutes. Let me go grab my Bible.
Okie dokie. Hello, everyone else in Discord. Hey, Dank, Daz, Diego, Divergent, Peaceful, and Steve. Shalom.
All the regulars.
Get up.
Sorry. I was going to say I don't agree with you, Nathan.
You don't agree? Fine, that's good. What don't you agree with, and why don't you agree with it?
Well, I just never heard it described that way. And then you got the Ethereum or the fallen angels. Were we talking about angels? Is that what we were talking about? Or did I get confused?
No, Neil was saying there was no descriptions of spheres in the Bible, and I said my understanding was that the angels themselves are described physically as appearing as spheres in some contexts that I've heard them described to me by other people third hand, as opposed to reading them in the Bible. So I've said, Neil, go and look it up in the Bible, as opposed to us hearing third hand how other people have described angels being described. I've even seen people create models of spherical angels based on what they've said. They've gone on their biblical description of them. That's angels in the Bible being described, and more autonomically, I don't know if that's the right word. It's the right word. Anatomically, I think that's the right word. More anatomically correct, based on the description in the Bible. So Neil's now on his top to look it up.
As men.
There's only one. Bad Adam.
Go ahead.
Adam.
Go ahead.
Because I think it was me, but go ahead.
You were
Neil.
right. You were right. It was anatomically.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not worried about me pronouncing anatomically correct. We're more worried about what the Bible says about the descriptions of Bibles in their physical appearance. No offense, Adam.
Yeah. They look like men, anatomically.
Exactly.
It says, right, let's hear the quote. Verse, chapter, please.
Well,
Okay. The only thing I could find, but this also is someone's commentary. Because in the Bible, you're only going to get the only spherical thing you're going to see concerning the angels are in Ezekiel with the wheel and the wheel.
Yeah.
That's the
yeah,
only
there you
time.
go. Well, there you go. That's one of them.
All right, so let me go get that and we'll read that out.
Okay. Wheel within a wheel sounds kind of like a gyro.
I think that describes the
Swimming in circles within circles.
Yeah.
Not a spear, though.
But that was like back in my Feast of Nonsense days when I remember hearing about all that. When I even stuck to that kind of topic.
You ever heard the lyrics to The Windmills of Your Mind? Round like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel. Never ending or beginning, on an ever-spinning reel, like a snowball down a mountain or a carnival balloon, like a carousel that's turning, running rings around the moon, like a clock whose hands are sweeping past the minutes of its face, and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
That's pretty good. It's all taken from Ezekiel. Here, I'll read it to you. In Ezekiel's vision, the angel known as Ophanim are described as luminous, interconnected wheels that move in any direction without turning. These wheels, one beside each of 4 cherubim, are said to sparkle like precious stones, like topaz or crystallite, and have rims full of eyes. The wheels are also described as a wheel within a wheel. Additionally, each cherub has 4 faces: cherub, human, lion, and an eagle. So that's the closest you're going to get to a sphere.
I have such a hard time with all that stuff.
Well, you should read the whole thing in its context. It's from Ezekiel. Wheel within a wheel. They call it, like they say, it's like a gyroscope. All 4 wheels look alike, each like a wheel within a wheel.
Do you want the second?
Yeah, it sounds like a gyroscope.
Do you want the second verse from the song? It's actually called "The Windmills of Your Mind," but it's got "wheel within a wheel" quite frequently.
Yeah, but who is
but you
that?
have
Who
to sing it.
sings that?
Sorry, 2 people spoke again.
Sorry, Neil, you go.
No, I just want to know who is it? Who is it by?
Noel Harrison. It's from the Thomas Crown Affair. That's where I heard it anyway.
All right, let's hear the next part.
The next part. Like a tunnel that you follow to a tunnel of its own, down a hollow to a cavern where the sun has never shone, like a door that keeps revolving in a half-forgotten dream, or the ripples from a pebble someone tosses in a stream, like a clock whose hands are sweeping past the minutes of its face, and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
The
Round
original
like a circle in a
Thomas Crown Affair?
spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, like a never-ending or beginning on a never-spinning wheel. That's how the song goes. From memory. Probably butchered it, but that's as much as I can remember.
Yeah, but a wheel's not a spiral, is it? Sphere?
No.
I never have heard that, Nathan. And then the stars are in the sky for signs and seasons. They move, they circle. And I don't know if I'd buy the ball. I'm looking at all kinds of different things here, but I can't find them.
I keep looking, it's interesting. I mean, there's no pressure today. I've got no plans to do anything in today's show. Like I say, there's kind of stuff going on in my personal life that makes me want to just do this because it's probably the most relaxing thing I do at the moment, doing the live show. Like I say, it makes me chuckle because I know instinctually that a lot of people look at live performancing or live talking to anybody ever as probably the most stressful thing they can ever do. So for me to say, well, at the moment, the most relaxing thing in my life is doing a live performance in front of potentially, although it's not at the moment, but, hundreds of people. Well, talk amongst yourselves. We've still got 2 or 3 minutes before we start the live stream.
Yeah, they used to say the wheel within a wheel. That whole Ezekiel encounter in the Bible was it was showing you it was aliens coming from outer space. They likened it to a spaceship. Same thing with the fiery chariot that took what do you call it up Elijah. I've been hearing those things for years, but that's all based
Yeah,
on heliocentrism.
I've never heard it in the Bible. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
No,
Is it-
the fiery chariot that Elijah was taken up with is in the Bible. That's the story. But people turned that into a spaceship. You know,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, they're always talking about the stars and not spheres or
well, the only one is like the Ezekiel. That's all I could find, where it's the wheel and the wheel, and that's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much a gyroscope. But
yeah, but yeah, right. But that's what they're describing as circling of the stars. They're describing the Earth, not some make believe crap.
right. So as I was watching QE that video yesterday, I could see why some people got deceived with that 24-hour sun thing. It clicked. I could see why so many people are getting deceived by it. Let's get it on.
Evening.
Evening.
Hello.
I'm only here to
sounded,
learn.
Was that an Aussie evening I heard?
Sure is.
Oh, it's late for you guys, is it not?
It's 11 p.m.
Yeah, that's about
Ah,
out time, innit? That's winding down, getting your toothpaste out time. Yeah, good for you guys. What's the
that's
date
just
there?
criminal.
Are you ahead of us or behind us? You're behind us, right? In Oz. You're about to go into the 11th, correct? Today is the 10th.
No, it's the 11th here today, I think. We're in front of you.
Oh, so you're ahead of us. Oh, okay. Should really know. Not that it matters. Completely arbitrary.
Yeah, because of the tilt of the Earth,
Time
we're in
zones,
front.
Nathan. Time zones. It proves you're on a sphere.
Yeah, you just interrupted Jardo making that ironic point. But go ahead, Jardo.
Yeah, because of the tilt of the Earth, we're a little bit in front.
Yeah, when you say the tilt of the Earth, do you mean the degree that's described with respect to a plane when tilting a rotating plane of reference? Is that what you're talking about? It is. Spoiler. It's disappeared temporarily. But yes, that is what's talked about when measuring a plane of reference for axial rotation or a degree of tilt with respect to a plane, describing the motion of stars. And a mathematical description of a tilt will also be with respect to that plane of reference that the measurements of the stars to make this inference were made from in the first instance. In other words, the stars are being measured with respect to a plane of reference to create a system that allows for an axial tilt inferred with respect to a plane of reference mathematically, heliocentrically. How fascinating. Meanwhile, Earth's a plane of reference. Nice that we can describe the motion of the stars with this over-elaborate, reified description of heliocentrism, that is.
Yeah, but how can there be? How can there be flat if there's a 24-hour sun anywhere?
Non sequitur. Having a 24-hour sun has an absolutely zero bearing on whether or not the ground that we are measuring and referencing, everything, including but not limited to the angle with respect to the plane of reference that we can describe the sun above the horizon for 24 hours. That's also axiomatically tied with the measurement to a flat plane. So telling me that having a 24-hour sun has a non sequitur dictatorial influence on the plane we describe it when measuring it is, as I already suggested, non sequitur, Neil.
Yeah, but they show you how it works on a sphere, Nathan. They show you a picture and they show
Telling
you
me
it's circling, and that's the only can work on a sphere.
No. They don't show me jack. Telling me how mathematically you can take a plane of reference and create a sphere to be within, to then put in motion around the sun to describe how that model reified into existence would actually have a physical bearing on the motion of the sun, measured to create the model you're inferring has a influential bearing on the sun? Ludicrous.
Well, I saw the picture. I seen it. They showed the globe spinning, and the only way a 24-hour sun would work was if it was a glob. So therefore, glob.
Therefore, the glob that we measured and created with respect to the plane that was measured flat to create it makes the glob that we created from the flat plane the reason we have the 24-hour sun. Yeah, that's reification. And if you're going to claim non-causal influence from a reified mathematical model, then that's absurd and reification.
Well, then you tell me how you have a 24-hour sun in the region.
Why would I don't know the cause of the sun? Got it? Meanwhile, we measure Earth flat with the sun. There's a quite prolific group of people who went down there recently, in the last 6 months, and all of them, without exception, measured Earth flat to give us data about that sun. Its angle with respect to a plane of reference being one example, or its rotation with respect to a levelled tool being another. All of them, that would be the Antarctic expedition crew, measured Earth flat. There are no exceptions. All of them took measurements, and they were all flat. Just so we're clear about how Earth was dealt with in Antarctica with respect to the sun being above the horizon for 24 hours. Earth was, and always will be, I might add, measured flat to give us that information. Thank you, Antarctic explorers, some of whom are very shilly and now suggest that Earth isn't flat after levelling tools with respect to a plane of reference and documenting the angle of elevation of the sun for 24 hours straight. And that flat Earth prerequisite, meaning that Earth isn't flat, is again kind of absurd and maybe being paid for. I don't know why someone would do that. Idiocy doesn't seem to come into it. You can't be that stupid.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, everything you just laid out, why are they not, like, understanding that, but they'll look at a picture of a model and show you that the only way it works is if the Earth was a sphere, but you'll accept that, but not accept the outright measurements. It drives me insane.
They need the measurement. That's why I would suggest that when they start telling us in future that Earth's a sphere, and then you go, oh, how interesting. Tell me all about it. What got measured? The moment they reference a flat plane for their measurements, as they always do, demand that they get on their knees and accept the flat plane of reference that they are measuring for their example. And if they don't, say, I'm not interested in your example if you can't accept your own friggin' measurement. Yeah? That needs a flat Earth. Now, axiomatically, the globe Earth requires Earth be measured flat to create that reifiable idea of Earth being a sphere described from within a ball after taking measurements off a plane of the stars and their motions. Now, if you're going to suggest to me that we are in a ball moving in an orbital motion created by Copernicus after he measured Earth flat, oh, hell no. No, Earth was measured flat to create that idea that you're now telling me is a reifiable, justifiable, causal influencer of an appearance of the sun above the horizon measured flat. No, we just measured Earth flat to describe that. I don't have an explanation for what the sun is. I wouldn't dare. Let's just call it God's handiwork. Why does it do that? I don't know. I'm not God. But I do know we measured Earth flat to give us this information. Like the news bulletin that we were provided from them and their own handiwork levelling tools with respect to a plane of reference, describing angles of elevation of the sun for 24 hours. Yeah, they're all flat Earth proving prerequisites and measurements. That is to say that their measurements prove Earth's flat. I don't need anything else or care what the sun did or why it did it. We were and will always measure Earth flat everywhere. That's how we navigate. That's how I've charted the world. It's how we fly over it and sail on it. That's how world that we deal with always. That's not me being we in this example. It's everyone always. We all deal with Earth as a flat plane without exception. So I couldn't give a toss what the sun does. It has been axiomatically tied to some of those measurements of a flat plane that we then use in practical application to time where we are and when we're at it. So those navigational tools, in this case the sun, are useful when we measure Earth flat for navigating. So those are the things I know to be truly useful in the world that I inhabit. Why is the sun above a suggested horizon measured with angles that are flat Earth proving for 24 hours? I don't know. Does it do anything beyond prove a flat Earth? No. Maybe if I point that out to the people down there who wanted it to be a proof of a ball, they'll scream my friggin' name into the snow. Because Earth's still measured flat down there, no matter how much you want to believe that down there means you're inferring ball when Earth was measured flat to create that ball. And you persist in measuring it flat when you get down there. Down there being the inference of a sphere. It isn't. Or you wouldn't be measuring it flat.
I was just going to bring Tune up. He went on a debate with Brian and he held up the measurements. And when Brian tried to explain it to him, he said, I don't care what that says. So he knows. He knows he measured Earth flat.
Yeah, I don't care if he knows. If he was like spastic to the fact that he's measured a flat with elevation angles that he's holding up and waving at Brian, then I don't care. I know it's flat. And the people around me know it's flat. And the people who are grateful support me financially for that fact. And I'm internally grateful for them because they keep the lights on. Just. I'm not moaning that it's just. And I'm not super rich from this. That's life. But those people around me are grateful for knowing, beyond all doubt, Earth's flat. And knowing they can prove it if challenged with a measurement of Earth. Knowing further if they're advanced flat earthies from the Flat Earth Debate Forum, knowing that they can prove it with their opponent's own words 90% of the time. Because before long, their opponent's going to be offering them a flat Earth measurement to suggest that they can prove a ball. And you can just shove their faces in that fact that they will need to measure Earth flat. Because that's how Earth's measured.
Well, if you remember that Sunday when he did call, and he did call you, he came onto the show through Discord because thank God you started the show that day. It was historical because how ball Earth is proof flat Earth is history, it's historical. But when you mentioned the measurements, he quickly started screaming and got off the line. So you hit a nerve there, Nathan.
It's because Earth's measured flat, and he'd measured it flat. He came back and waved those flat Earth measurements I was pointing out on the phone to him, to Brian now, didn't he? Historically.
Yeah, he deflected to measurements.
Yeah, that's what he told his audience. McToon told his audience that I, quote, tried to deflect with measurements, end quote, McToon to his audience. Yeah, deflect to measurements, yeah. By coincidence, it was the 100th time I had told Toon personally that he'd measured Earth flat with elevation angles. Prior to that, it was his 10K challenge that required Earth be measured flat for elevation angles. In this instance, I'd told him for the 100th time, no less, while in Antarctica, that he had measured Earth flat with elevation angles, and that ticked him off royally because he was in the process of measuring Earth flat with elevation angles as I said it to him. The result was he screamed my name into the snow. Something about guns not being there or something. I mean, obviously all of those numpties had detailed how complex it was to get there and how many hoops they had to jump through. And while they were at the various different passport controls, there were armed guards that would have stopped them and shot them if they tried to get on a boat or get on a plane without the permission of all of those forms that they had to fill in and go through. But meanwhile, when they actually arrived, having jumped through all those hoops, a moron known as Toon deflected from measurements by asking where the guns were. Interesting world we live in, isn't it? Meanwhile, Earth's still measured flat by everyone always, so I couldn't give a toss. This is all inconsequential to me. I mean, it's very meaningful and very deep to people like Toon. You know, they probably hate me because of this. Like, would rather see me dead. Literally, that's how much passion they have and disdain they have for someone like me pointing out their own flat Earth measurements to them. Yeah? Because they hate themselves and how stupid they must feel for not recognising just how flat Earth is, or bracing against it for such a prolonged period in the face of their own measurements of a flat Earth. Me pointing that out makes them just want to hate me, because the only alternative is to hate themselves for their own stupidity. Better and easier in their own mind to hate me and project that onto me. And what do they get for that? They get me laughing at them for it. Yeah? Yeah, project that onto me. Tell me I'm dumb. It's actually just pure projection though, isn't it? I recognised my own stupidity and ignorance quite early on in the flat Earth endeavour. All right, wow, how dumb am I for not seeing this earlier? I remember too QE giving the same vibe of humility to me early on when he talked about him not recognising that you can't have gas pressure without a container. Now that's QE's rhetoric, right? At one point, QE had to have the humility to go, why the hell didn't I recognise this? And that was his moment. Now, he feels embarrassed about this. Now, I don't care. I'm going to take it on the chin if he has a go at me for this. Because it's good that he has had that moment and I can talk about it. Thank God he's not here. Because it's that recognition that, yeah, it's me. It's my stupidity. It's me not recognising the dancing bear while I'm counting the balls being dribbled. I didn't notice. Yeah, it's on me. But it's easier to just say, no, it's on the government. It's them. They hid this from me. It's a conspiracy. It's not me being dumb. It's a lie. It's a grand conspiracy. They're out to hide it from little old me. They were hiding God too. Yeah. Yeah, it's all a big conspiracy. Let's look into that conspiracy, because then the finger of blame is never going to point at me. Let's look for the hidden hand indefinitely.
It's funny because that's the first thing I said to QE. I was like, how did you not see that gas fresh without a container? And I didn't know that it bothered him that he didn't recognize it. So I was just, just met him and freaking just getting into all of this with you guys. And he's like, it bothered him. It did. It still bothers him that he didn't pick it up.
Because we've got other things to deal with. We've got very, very fun-packed lives with children, mortgages, debt, car payments, entropic decay and everything around you, borrowing a bit of money so you don't live a miserable life at the end of it. You know what I mean? There's a lot to concern yourself with to not notice that you're having the wool pulled over your eyes in terms of the very nature of the reality you inhabit. The big things slip you by when you're focused on the little things intensely. Wow, doesn't time fly when you're having fun? 20 minutes into the show, we've only just started. Isn't that amazing? We all having fun on the panel? I've just been waffling away.
It's a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day.
Yes.
Partially, that's why I was like, I'm not going to have a show today. It's been quite distressful for the audience that's live. Not that I was left it at least 20 minutes before I mentioned it. So I've been informed by doctors that my father's at the final stages of his life. So it's kind of a miserable time for me and my family at the moment, as my dad is in the... I've forgotten why they term it now. I did say it earlier. I can't remember what they call it.
Hospice?
No, when you're dying, they give it a term. Final stages of life or something like that. I can't remember how they term it. Anyway, actively dying, that's the term. Anyway, so for that reason I was going to have a day off, but in reality, doing a show is far less stressful than sitting here pondering my dad's death as it happens. So there we go. Now you know. But it is a beautiful day. He says with a massive lump in his throat.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. You are not to know.
Don't be surprised if you have another child. That's what usually happens.
Me? I don't want another kid. We haven't got space.
Well,
That's how it happened for me.
I'm saying when someone dies, usually somebody else is born in the family.
Oh, well, maybe. I don't think so. I think
The
we're all
one
a
in,
bit...
one out system.
Maybe life and death is a bit of a turnstile. I have no idea. I couldn't possibly ponder. Adam was talking about this the other day about the refinement process. If you were God and you wanted to make sure that everybody was effectively, let's for the sake of ease, call it be saved. Now, you might have various interpretations of what that means, but, you know, the purification process, I think he was alluding to reincarnation when we were discussing this particular subject, would be such that you'd go through the mill many, many times till you were purified. So either one in, one out, turnstile analogy, maybe it's appropriate.
Well, that's reincarnation vibes, isn't it?
Yes, and that's totally contradictory to what the scripture says.
Indeed. It's more Buddhist than Christian.
Oh, well, Jesus
One
said
in,
broad and
one out.
wide and straight and narrow. So you got two paths.
One in, one out doesn't comply with entropy.
No, it doesn't. Not wrong there. Straight up second law of thermodynamics violation, says Jardo. And you're not wrong.
You need 2.3 for every 2.
Why? Oh, in terms of children?
Yeah, 2.3 for every 2 to compensate for entropy. Otherwise, you're at extinction mode.
Yeah, we used to have a show on UK TV called, I think it was called 2.4 Children.
You just gave it the name entropy. People.
What are you asking?
Well,
Neil?
if your theory or your idea violates the second law of thermodynamics, then it's over. I can't remember the full quote.
What were you asking about, Neil? Whether or not people suffer entropy?
No, I'm just saying, man put the word entropy on what happens, right? God designed it, and that's how he designed it.
No, yeah, that's how it's been. I see what you're saying, but the word itself is arbitrary, but that arbitrary word is being ascribed to a description of that which occurs always in the case of the second law of thermodynamics. Us ascribing words so we can convey to others a description of that which occurs always will always be just a description of that which occurs always. But that doesn't alter that which is occurring always is, as you put it, God's handiwork. Entropy in this case.
Right, and you see it at its beginning stages if you read the book of Genesis.
Maybe. Please share
What
the
do you
show.
mean, maybe?
It's a slightly morbid vibe, but it'd be nice if we had a few people watching. So yeah, smash that share button if you've not done so already, as we're coming up on halfway through this live show. I've no idea how many people are watching. 69. Nice.
Oh, I got
72.
65.
It says 72 for me. Yeah.
In any event, please share the show if you've not done so already. There's plenty of flat earth evidence in the first 20 minutes. People will like it. And there's very little, if any, swearing. So nobody can moan. Everyone's going to be happy. Everyone's a winner.
No, about that, I'm just saying, moving forward with the book coming out, you want people to stumble across you or look you up and see you well represented. That's all I was saying. I'm not saying that everything that happened in the past was not justified. Just saying, moving forward, And it was because my wife just yelled at me the other day. I didn't even realize it. I don't have headphones on because they're broke, so I have to listen to it on the phone, and it bothered her. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay. Well, we're keeping it real, I'm afraid, Neil. Sometimes we swear here. We try and keep it to a minimum on a live show.
Yeah, I know that. I'm not trying to change who you are. I understand that. But we do have control of the words we say, and you do have an extensive vocabulary.
Yes, I do find myself within an indubitable profundity of swearing. So finally having some actual numbers put on how long the book will take. And if you've watched my most recent video that I uploaded for 5 hours of me just sat there playing games and listening to stuff that's going on, I listened back to it and I'm like, yeah, I've kind of switched off a little bit, haven't I? While this is happening. Occasionally I put my 2 pennyworth in. But whatever it is, 5th, 6th redraft of this book, you know, it's kind of just happening around me at the moment. If you get that impression, that's definitely the case. But that's fine.
What does QE call you, the absentee landlord?
Yeah, Brian's like, it wants to take it away from it even being my book when he has the same sort of jab. You know, it's all in good fun, by the way. If anyone's thinking this is all done in any seriousness, it isn't. You know, we're all friends. Everyone's helping me write my book, and it's a lot of work for them. And there are huge chunks of QE and Adam who have helped the most write the book. So you can actually see that being the case on my most recent upload, and you can see some of their work being done. And it is work. They're putting in the work for my book, and I am eternally grateful to them for that. Hopefully they benefit from it, as in financially, with the way it's going to get marketed. So, you know, anybody who wants to take part in promoting the book can financially benefit from it, with the affiliate program being laid out initially, at least with the way it will be. So, and they'll get an acknowledgement. But only
And if
QE
you
and Adam.
don't, you could think of it as you got an acknowledgement,
No,
right?
Adam and QE will get a justifiable acknowledgement in the book, right?
Absolutely. They deserve it.
Yeah. I'm not saying that other people who can think of having an acknowledgement in the book don't deserve it. And frankly, you can think of it as though you have had an acknowledgement in the book. You won't have. Adam and QE will. But nevertheless, you can think of it as having a mention too. But that's got a date on it now. So we're working ever closer towards that date. And beautiful day that it is. This is the calm before the storm, right? There's a storm coming. These crystal clear waters, this calm, this won't last. Yeah?
Yeah, I agree. There's going to be a freaking media type something that hits the waters, and it will not be a small ripple. It's going to be a freaking, what do you call that big wave, that a tsunami?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's coming. But we'll hang it in with measurements.
Yeah, well, the book's something I'm marketing and publishing and getting out there in due course. And that will be the start of that tsunami, metaphorically, as Neil's just described. And in terms of the actual sales and marketing of the book, at the moment I'm warming myself back up to that particular endeavour too, something I'm pretty good at, which is good. You know, sales and marketing is something I've done in the past as a job. So I can do it. I'm doing it at the moment with microphones to keep my head above water while we finish off that book. Now, yes, admittedly, finishing it off is actually me just sitting while the process happens in front of me, because we've gone through many drafts of the book so far. But it doesn't mean that the final stuff that's going into these final edits aren't absolutely crucial. There is still information being edited and added at the same time, which isn't necessarily good on a last draft, but by the same token, needs must, right? If that's what it requires, and Adam's flair and QE's flair being added to these sort of last stages before it does come out is, you know, only going to be beneficial. And my name's going on it, so I can only thank them. Yes, they'll get an acknowledgement, but they're still having to put in a huge amount of work, like anybody who's been involved in the book, right?
Yeah, it's always a scientific method and natural law. I always find that when those two collide, it's like a long journey.
Yeah, it's because it always ties back. The problem we're having at the moment, what Neil's describing is, while we're editing at the moment, we've got chunks of descriptions of natural laws that are being used to grease the skids of scientific method for those charlatans that haven't got it. That was pretty concise. Now, that overlaps multiple chapters. So while they're going through the editing process, they're going, does this elaborate and lengthy explanation of how natural laws are not science belong here in the gravity section? Or does it belong in the chapter that's describing us asking the question about any scientific evidence? Or, moreover, any single viable hypothesis? Where does this elaborate description of how charlatans use natural law, which is not science, it's a description, to grease the skids of acclaimed science that isn't, by suggesting that their just so story is the same as the science of natural law when it describes something, but it isn't science. So that has to be somehow packaged up, perhaps in the gravity section, perhaps in the any scientific evidence section, perhaps in something that's unrelated, Cavendish section. Whatever it is we're covering, there's often the need to expand or expound on the fact that the laws of nature are convoluted with scientific methodology to grease the skids of bullshitters.
That was well summed up.
Yeah, just for those people like Brian who says, you're not even writing your own book. Yeah, I am. And I have to sit through the editing process. It looks like I'm playing Fortnite. I am actually playing Fortnite.
You have the ability to chew gum and walk at the same time.
You've got it. It's the end, right? It's the end. And I'm not sick of it. I am, you know, going through the motions with Adam, and I can hear the cogs turning. That sounds insulting. It isn't. When this is the process that they're, Adam and QE at the moment, going through, and it's been the same for each redraft of the book, and every time it goes through the mill, it becomes more refined. Now, there is a point where me, as the author, I'm the one with the book, I'm the namesake. Yeah. Now, everyone around me knows that I'm the one that's going to be absolutely savaged once the book comes out, because all that's going to be the only route to undoing what is in this book is going to be the personal attacks on me. Now, the people around me know who I am and know I'm absolutely and completely prepared for this. I've dealt with it for 10 years. But that is what's facing me, right? They're not going to be able to undo what's in that book. They can misrepresent it. That's Brian's tact at the moment when Neil was asking the same question a couple of days back. It's like, well, Neil's attitude is, well, you can't argue with what's in black and white. Nah, but you can easily misrepresent it. And again, I'm prepared for that. You know, I'm prepared for my name being dragged through the mud and people trying to dig out. It's like, what? Is that something that I haven't had to deal with for the last 10 years? No, nothing's new under the sun in that regard. We're all battle-hardened from people trying to character assassinate us for 10 years. But it'll just be on a wider scale. It's like people going through the motions of trying to character assassinate somebody because they can't address the book. Why? Because it's refined. And if you do happen to be interested in this, right, if you are like, I'll be interested to buy a copy of this book and pass it on to next man I've been arguing with, or better my argumentation by reading it carefully over and over again a few times, and then knowing how to argue this subject concisely, well, for those people, go and have a look at some of the final stages of editing. I've published it, like I say, it's admittedly in a 5-hour video, but you can just whiz through to the end and just see, you know, the kind of, it's very sweary. We're men, right? We're sailors at heart, aren't we? QE, myself, Adam. We're talking about celestial navigation and swearing like sailors. That's how we are when we're talking to each other, right? And we're abusive to each other as well. We are telling each other to shut the F up quite repeatedly and constantly while we try and concentrate for a few seconds, because in that regard, we can't chew gum and walk at the same time. We're men. We need to be able to concentrate while other people around us need to shut the F up. And we will tell each other in the nicest possible way to do that. And that's how we interact. And to be honest, I'm glad in a way that Adam told me, oh, I don't want to cover these two ladies, find that they are again, so publish your material. And I'm like, okay, well, QE was against it, but now he's done his bit yesterday. I have actually published that this morning. And I felt good about it while it was coming out. I was listening to it going, now this is good. It's good to for people to see the refinement process of the book. It's a bit tedious, I'm not going to lie. It drags on because we're polishing. And polishing, if you've ever watched anybody polish anything ever, it's tedious, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you're a fan of the show, you're going to eat that up. I would have, if this would have took place in 2016 when I was just a listener on YouTube, I would have loved it.
Well, metaphorically, it's like when you get a car and you've had it, you're getting it repainted. Anthony Riley's just had this done, right? He's gone and got a car resprayed completely. Now, you're not necessarily part of the process of polishing that car or spraying that car. But if you can, at some stage, stick your head in the paint booth, as Anthony Riley's done, that's why I'm using this example, and take a video of it being done, you kind of feel like you've been involved in the process. Now, by the same token, if you're like, oh, I definitely want to get hold of one of those books when they come out, for all the reasons I won't just go through again, then watch a bit of that process, because then it'll be like you appearing in the paint booth when the car's having the spray done by the professional who knows what he's doing. In this case, the editors are Adam and QE. They're professionals. They know what they're doing. Yeah, I'm the dyslexic fool that's boshed a book together, and now I'm having to have the creases and ripples and an orange peel buffed out by the pros. That's Adam and QE in this instance, right? Well, to watch them buff is a sight to behold. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not constantly in awe of them while this is going on. I'm probably playing Fortnite, as I say, but that does not mean that I do not appreciate the art and beauty of their buffing. You know what I'm getting at? And you too, if you have any intention of buying the book or reading the book or passing the book on to another third party, it's worth watching that process, because then you will feel more attachment to the cold, stark facts we lay out in the book. And I say we because you're watching the refinement of the polish go on when you watch QE and Adam do what they're doing currently. Yeah? Now, it's not the most exciting, but there's an art to refining a book or polishing a car, by analogy. And it's nice to see, and you'll feel involved if you just, like I say, check it out. That's the video that came out earlier this morning on my channel, Nathan Oakley 1980. I've called it The View because it starts off with the bit that Adam was hesitant for me to publish, or I was hesitant because of QE's input, but Adam wanted me to publish, with the people that were covered on QE's live stream. That's QE Live on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel yesterday. But now that he's done his thing and is going through the ABCs of it from start to finish, I can then also publish, which I have now done, the preceding reactions from us, including Adam, who just watched the football yesterday. So you can hear a lot more of Adam's input on those first hour or so of video. Anyway, what else are we going to cover? Where are we? 25 minutes before we end this live stream. 2/3 of the way through, maybe.
I concur totally too, because just being there watching them two go at it and put this thing to life, it is really it's enjoyable. For me, it is.
Yeah, you're there, but obviously after myself. Neil's probably the person that's been the most involved in this process. So if it's me talking to the publisher with 10th Man, Neil's there. If it's me with, in this case, Adam and QE, Neil's there. You know what I mean? So don't get me wrong, Neil's not always there when I'm there, and I'm always there. It's my book. But of all the people, I know Neil won't get mentioned because he's done almost no work in that regard. He's just there. But you have been there, and I'm glad you take enjoyment from it, Neil, because, you know, you have been there almost as much as I have for almost everything that's taking place to make this book be a thing, right?
Yeah, I'm the union leader.
If you say so. You can think of it as being the union leader.
Exactly.
Are you a traveling man, Neil?
No, but I'm them no-show jobs, you know? When you go
What
there, I'm a union delegate.
I get
Meanwhile, I
accused,
get nothing.
I've learnt this now, so I could do this right. I get accused of being a Freemason a lot, and asking somebody if they're a travelling man, like Will Duffy was asked, right? And then affirming in the positive that you are indeed a travelling man, aka Freemason, is something that I've learnt. Is it that they have to respond something along the lines of, I'm travelling from east to west? Is that what they have to say? Am I wrong?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm not a Freemason, but I learned this only recently, and I'm trying to parrot it verbatim, and I can't quite remember it correctly. I'm sure it's something like, yes, I am travelling from east to west.
Hopefully the insider will accept the answer if we keep asking it.
Who's the insider? Is there a Freemason here? Somebody in the Discord a Freemason? Is it you, Steve?
So wait, east to west, that's linear, right?
No.
It's a straight path, isn't it?
No. Who's the Freemason then? Is there somebody in the Discord panel that's Freemason? It's not me.
It could be me, because you were asking me, and I was like, yeah, I'm a traveler, man. I don't know what it meant, though.
Well, I want to be able to answer this with the correct answer too, just for humorous effect, not because I want people to actually think I'm a Freemason. I'm not. But I'm sure there is a correct response. And it wasn't the response Duffy gave. All he was doing was affirming to somebody who's asking that question, I'm a Freemason, yeah. If you're asking for the nod, here it is.
Wink, wink.
Exactly. Wink, wink. If they had hands, they'd be giving each other a funny handshake. Not if they had hands. If they had hands in each other's presence, is what I meant by that. Not that it matters. Again, this is all feast of nonsense that we're now, like, trying to prop up. What? Because of the Freemasons, that will only affect things that people have control of, like algorithmic censorship. Algorithmic my ass. Yeah, you can control that, right? The people who oppose you and prove you wrong really easily, you can just shut them down, not have them exposed to anybody. Oh, no, he's here. Hey,
Yeah,
Brian.
you could go before Congress, and they can shut you down.
Exactly, because they've got complete control over those networks. Those are their systems. Well, they can control their systems so that their message reaches their people through their systems, obviously. I'd be stupid to think that that wouldn't be the case. I'm here only because they tolerate me, if I'm going to really assess it. What's YouTube? Their system? I'm only here because they tolerate me being here, really, Neil, aren't I? If I can eke a living out, I'm all right.
Well, it would be right now, at this stage, if you were to just disappear from YouTube, they can't do that. They cannot do that.
I'm sure they can.
Yeah, but it would just be that would hurt them if they did that. You know?
Nah.
Because more people will be like, whoa. And that Nathan Oakley show is just gone?
I think what you're perceiving as influence that I have is far more limited than you potentially give me credit for. And even if I do have some modicum of influence over the general masses of the public, it is so limited after the fact. That is to say, people are so fickle that if I was to just disappear tomorrow, I don't even matter. I really don't. Now, that might change after the book tour. You know, ask me that in 12 to 18 months' time when I'm in the midst of a promotional tour for a book that we've got out and boshed as a unit together in the most refined way possible. Ask me then whether or not that, you know, because my name's going to be on it.
Yeah, they still can't take the chance now. Even though you don't feel like you got a large influence, it may be very minute. But if something like that happened where they just cut your show out for no reason, that will go through the grapevine everywhere, and they'll tell two friends, and they'll tell two friends, and they'll tell two friends, and then people will be aware of it, and that's not good. So they would hurt themselves, whoever they are, to just end your show. So you are here, and they're keeping you here.
You become a martyr, Nathan. Hey, here, thanks, everyone. That's what would
Exactly. You become a freaking
increase.
internet martyr, right, Brian?
Yeah, anyone who becomes a martyr like that, everyone wants to know why that happened, who that person was, what they were saying, especially in today's world.
Exactly.
So what you're saying and what is said on the show would end up being aired in places it never was.
Right. So they can't afford that. So you're better off right here doing what you're doing.
What I just said right
Well-
here is in amongst their system, which they do have control of, Neil. They're tolerating us being here.
Yeah, because it'd be detrimental if they do anything else, as Brian just explained. So they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
But
Who's
if a
they?
three-letter agency tells YouTube
Well-
to cancel the show, then the consequences of doing so will be far greater than not doing so.
Correct. I think so. My opinion.
How did we go from talking about
Well,
angels?
you have to look at it from a logical point of view. Sorry.
Go on, Brian. What's this logical point of view we must look at it from?
Well, if they removed you, right, now, even if they left QE on, right, but they removed you, at that point, what they're doing is they're limiting the amount of actual correct information on the topic on their platform, and that means there's going to be more David Weiss type stuff than what is, relayed on this show and QE show. Because once they remove this show, you only have QE show and Ballbusters for the information that we would relay, or maybe my channel, but my channel is very small. It's tiny in numbers in comparison to your channel. So like my point being is that you're going to end up in their mind possibly somewhere else, maybe Rumble or somewhere else. Because even if you stop doing this as a living, you would still do it. They fear maybe, or someone would invite you to do it somewhere else. The point being is that YouTube wouldn't have the cream of the crop in this arena. Then they'd have QE, but they wouldn't have you. Now, even though you say they just tolerate you the same way as they just tolerate me, the point being is that you're not saying anything that's wrong. Neither am I. And most of the time, there's nothing controversial said, as in from a personal point of view. We work off of geometry, natural law, things like that. Things that are just true, and we point stuff out concerning that. Whereas you have David Weiss in that who works off of stuff that isn't always true. Some of the stuff he says is true, but a lot of it may not be, or may not be correctly researched, or whatever, because his attitude is different. The point being is that if I owned YouTube, I'd want, even if I subdued them, I'd want the best in the topic on my platform. Because if you're not on, if the best in the topic is not on their platform, then the best in the topic is going to be on someone else's platform. So it's a case of, if they want to stay being the best, they must keep people that literally are controversial, whether it be you, or it could be like let's just take Candace Owens. Like she's very controversial. She has upset the apple cart big time in France with the French president and his husband, sorry, wife. And and the thing is that, do they want rid of Candace Owens? No, because she's going to end up somewhere else then, bringing an audience somewhere else. That weakens their platform. So if they want to be number one, they have to accept those that they don't like or don't agree with. or whatever. Now, we don't know if they don't like you or don't agree with you, but we do at this point that you're definitely subdued. You know, so am I, so is QE. Flatside as well, he's subdued, but he don't really do the same thing anymore. But the point is that anyone who is promoting the same information as is promoted on this show is subdued. So it's up to them. They can either have it on their platform and keep control of it and keep it subdued, or they can allow it onto some other platform. You know, and that's not what they want.
Fair enough. That makes sense. If it's tolerated, at least it's capable of a certain degree of control, is what you're saying. Makes sense.
Yeah, well, the YouTube wants the best on their platform because there is other platforms, Rumble and whatever else, and maybe Google doesn't own all of them. Maybe there's other platforms and there's TikTok and that you know, other places people can go. You can do live shows on X, and, you know, so it's like we may as well hold on to them, even if we don't agree with them and don't want to promote them. We hold on to them and give them just enough to keep them there. Then, you know, we'll have control of them. You know, our platform will have the cream of the crop. There isn't a Nathan Oakley on X, other than unless you have an account. There isn't a Nathan Oakley on TikTok unless you have an account there. But you don't have the same amount of airtime on X or on TikTok or wherever else, Rumble.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Makes sense. Well, it'd be nice to have something to tour with. So once the book's done, I'll have something to actually go out on people's platform with. A bit like Dave Weiss with his app.
I can't believe he's still pointing to that thing and selling it like he was when we reviewed that video the other day. I mean, that's got to be a smack in the face to people.
Yeah.
He don't care, though. He don't care. That's his
He doesn't.
focus.
Right. He cares about money. That's all he cares about. He don't give a crap. As long as he's raking it in, because the end of that video, that's all they were going to end the show. It's like, wait, 1 minute before you end the show. I thought he had something important to say. Oh, he did. Important for him. And he just went through his whole app. Spent another 3 minutes on the app. Freaking shyster.
Can you say that everything on that app is rubbish? No, there's going to be good stuff on there too. Like there's going to be something on there, especially for the newbie person, that will be good. There'll be plenty of stuff in there for conspiratorial types. You know, people who lean really conspiratorial. There'll be that kind of stuff there.
Yeah, he's got experiments on there. You gather that'll be good, Brian. He's got a whole app on the app. He's got a section set up apart for the experiments that were done.
Yeah, he's selling rubbish and he's selling a dream, but he's selling what the average everyday person thinks they need to find. He's smart, like he is smart. Getting the app together early and stuff like that was a smart move, and he cornered Mark Sargent's market in a lot of ways. You know, he's not stupid. He's just not interested in. He's not interested. His focus is finances and promotion, and that's what his focus is. So at this, like him saying it could be a bigger ball, it's like that should tell you that he's willing to just whatever. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't. You know what I mean? He just say anything as long as the app is getting promoted. He knows it's not a bigger ball, but he's willing to say it.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
exactly. You can see his motivation. His incentive isn't the same as ours, right?
Like a used car salesman. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, you got it. I said double glazing salesman, but that was the vibe I was going for. Yeah, used car salesman. Exactly.
Yeah, Dave's second-hand auto kind of stuff on Broadway.
Well, yeah, I mean,
loads of radio adverts, and you know what I mean.
it's a little bit of.
All days.
It's also a little bit of projection on my part as I sell my second-hand microphones.
Yeah, but that's something. That's something you have to do, right? Because you got to make ends meet. You could be in a luxury right now. on the freaking
Boat.
on the boat. If you would have just sold out.
Sucked a bit of ether.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but the ether claim is being accepted far and wide by people that you wouldn't expect.
Of course.
There's a guy called I saw a video, some of a video last night from 11 months ago. It was on a channel by a guy called Richard Fogues. You would have seen him in the past. He is a bald guy with glasses, and he wears a kind of a cravat scarf thing. And he had a guy on. And this guy, Richard Fogues, I think he's possibly a flat earther at this stage, because he did start addressing flat earth, and he kind of went against it at first, but then I think he investigated it further. I'm not sure, but this guy, Richard Fogues, has a reasonably popular channel, and he promotes ether himself. And he had a guy on his show talking about mud flood and all this other stuff, and the ether. And like, they weren't specifically talking about the ether, but when they were mentioning the ether, it was like a done deal, done deal. Like, this is, and it's, it's a hidden thing, and you know what I mean? It's like, it's like your man, this guy Richard, even told a story about how he said publicly to a group of people, he said something about, there was some mention of something, and it's like, I would say, oh, it's just a flat stationary enclosed self-automated dynamic system, right? It's just a statement of fact, right? But he said something similar, but it wasn't a statement of fact. It was a big load of garble about some nonsense, probably mud flood or whatever. And ether was added in there. And he was telling us some story of how he said this to some group of people publicly. I said it publicly, and people's jaws dropped and didn't know what to make out of it. So there's people out there just accepting this widely. And that other guy I told you about, that other guy who was supposedly investigating what happened to MH370, right? Who's believing all kinds of rubbish, right? And confirmation bias. He's the ultimate confirmation bias hog, because he's anything that comes his way that in any way supports what he thinks is the truth of what happened to MH370. He has this orb theory, colloquial. He just jumps on it, and this guy literally is like it's nearly word for word when you hear him speak about certain things. It's nearly word for word exactly the same rubbish as with it. I mean, literally word for word. Now, I haven't heard him say the term ether yet, but he's saying all the same exact stuff, and he's relating all this stuff to what happened to MH370, the plane, Malaysian Airlines, which I think is crazy to be doing, considering that whole plane full of people went missing. Like, but this guy, so here's two pretty reasonably popular YouTubers who are just like pumping out a heap of complete rubbish that is basically a load of ether.
Do you think it's there? Do you think it's propped up again to disband people in the future? Because each of these layers, like ether, like 9/11 truth, all of these things that originally were put at us like we flat earthers were muddying the waters of their investigations into things like 9/11, when in reality they're completely unrelated subjects. And for any endeavours that people look at in conspiracy circles like 9/11 truthers, are unrelated to the nature of the measured earth that we stand on. But it's got to be convoluted in with those things, much to their annoyance, where they think flat earthers, the bullshit feast of nonsense, Ethereum version of flat earth, convolutes and muddies the waters for other people's investigations into where the world is actually being, actively deceived or hoaxed, or however you want to describe it. So for that reason, you've got to have a controlled narrative where ether and things of that nature is constantly pumped out by people like Witsit and repeated by their followers. Now, for me, when I put out good arguments, and I say me, I'm not just taking credit for good arguments we all use, it's just people say these words, well, that's just a Nathan argument, or that's just a QE argument. You'll hear that parroted to sort of demean the good arguments, when in reality the garbage arguments are only spread through repetition. So they need to demean anybody repeating the good arguments as though it's just a parroting of a person, me in this instance, rather than just an understanding of the argument, when their false message gets peddled by two people repeating the verbatim message one for one on different shows at different times, which is Brian's point in this example, right, Brian?
Yeah, I think that how they're using ether is a common ground between flat and globe. Why I say that is this guy, the MH370 investigator guy, he's a total globe or idiot. I mean, this guy is a major bozo, right? But he says exactly what Richard says. Now, I can't say I heard him say the word ether, or he may have, but I can nearly 100% put a bet on it that he is absolutely a believer in the ether. And this guy, Richard Voges, he wasn't a flat earther, but I think he is more of a flat earther now, or way more open to it. The point I'm making is there was no bridge or middle common ground between flat and globe until the ether turned up. But now there is the ether. So people can disagree on whether the earth is a globe or it's flat, but they can all agree on the ether existing. And it's like then whether it's flat or a globe is diminished. And what's important is the ether exists. Do you know what I mean? To say and it's like that suits them perfect. That's perfect. Then they're not passionate about whether it's flat or a globe. They're passionate about whether ether exists. Because if they're passionate about whether it's flat or a globe, it'll be shown that it's flat and not a globe, which is not what they want. So
Right,
it's like,
but
go on, John.
I was just going to say the Einsteinian and Ethereum both believe in the inertial plane. You know, that's agreed upon right away.
Yeah, but the thing about the ether and the belief of that spanning across the flat and globe arenas, because it's a debate in both, takes away from the flat, whether it's flat or a globe, and it becomes a thing where people start agreeing, certain people on either side start agreeing that, well, okay, you don't agree that it's flat, we don't agree that it's a globe, but we all agree that ether exists. Do you know what I mean? So we have common ground. So suddenly all these people will be friends, and the flat versus globe thing won't be so important, which is what they want, because that is the big topic. So suddenly that is diminished in its importance, right? Whereas if ether didn't exist, those people would not be meeting on the middle ground because there wouldn't be one. So that's how I view it. I view it as a psychological operation, basically.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, like, the astral nature of the ether, right? It's they're the same by their very descriptions. You know, space, time, ether. It's all the same thing. The descriptions are the same. They just use different words to refer to the same thing.
Yeah, but that's the point. It can fit a globe just perfect. Or you can fit it in a flat earth that fits whatever you want it to fit, is the point I'm making. And then people aren't so concerned about whether you, like, I'm not so concerned if you say it's a globe, and you're not so concerned if I say it's flat, because we're both ether buddies. You know what I mean? They're stopping they're creating a middle ground, a friendly place of complete nonsense. That way, there's a whole group of people on either side that aren't going to be having the argument about whether it's flat or globe. They're going to be interested. They're going to be all holding hands in an ether circle.
Yeah, they can meditate. Trust me, bro.
Yeah, exactly, and argue with a load of people on either. Argue with people like us who say it's a load of rubbish and prove it's a load of rubbish, and people on the globe side who would say similar.
or anybody with a profundity towards ether. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Primary Extremes, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
Have the same thing happening on the globe side. So now they've created a third faction, right? It was flat versus globe, right? But now it's starting to be flat and globe and ether flat and ether globe, who are all on the same side when it comes to that topic. Do you understand what I mean? They're adding a third wheel in that amalgamates both, and it creates an ambiguity in the geometry argument, which is the only important argument. And you'll have people on, like we argue with Witsit on the top about it, right? Just like we point out that Witsit's talking rubbish, there'll be people on the globe side who will be pointing out that people on that side who are promoting it are talking rubbish. Because the man I spoke about earlier, who's a complete baller and an idiot, who's going around trying to tell everyone how MH370 disappeared, that guy is promoting all that exact same stuff. And he has loads of people who are ballers, just like him, who are out for blood with him, right? So it's like they're creating a third group. And by doing that, they're taking away from the validity of the actual argument, which is it a globe or is it flat? And that's the real argument. And we know the answer to that. But the point is that that's the real argument. So that they're moving the spotlight, if you understand what I mean. And yeah,
you can't reach synthesis. You can't reach synthesis. You can't reach synthesis without, introducing that other thing. You don't want.
Yeah, you can't reach synthesis without synthesis. That is. Back in a minute.
I don't know if it's enough. I mean, I understand what Brian's saying. I just don't think ether's enough to have cats and dogs living together.
Not for us, no. But we are different.
But even if you look at the other version of flat earthers, not us, the feast of nonsense flat earthers, the globe believing equivalent won't tolerate being around them. They'll just want to tell them they're stupid too much, even if they're both Ethereans.
Oh, possibly. You remember we watched that video where Witsit was like talking to those Globers and they were like fawning over him?
Vaguely.
I think that's what Brian's trying to get at, is that they disagreed with Witsit. They probably talked crap about him while he was gone, but while he was there, they acted like he was, the best thing ever. It was odd.
Very. There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on in this community because I think it's contrived.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, you got like the perfect storm of challenging the authorities of a topic, meeting people who are paranoid, and on top of that, there's so much convolution in the topic already. It's like the perfect storm of crap.
Yep.
What video did y'all review today?
We didn't.
Well,
We just chatted.
I was hoping we could. Oh, sorry.
Let us not forget that Witsit has buddied up to the enemy, right? But in two enemies, not just the borders, right? But Roberts and Jennings. So the extra part of that bridge will be the geocentric Earth people, right? Who are globers. Now, Witsit could very easily flip to being a geocentric glober and not go full heliocentrism, like Darren Campanella, right? But even if he didn't, he has Roberts and Jennings, who is his buddy, to help him.
Why
I mean,
didn't
it's a big
somebody tell
convoluted
Darren?
mess. Maybe Roberts and Jennings, 1 second, maybe Roberts and Jennings wouldn't agree with the ether, but he agrees that it's geocentric. Witsit is getting agreement ladders left, right, and center. And all these other people are joining in on it and doing the same. And everyone's going to be all agreeing with each other. Well, they don't really agree on the geometry of the world or this part, or whether it's a globe, but it is orbiting a sun, or it's a globe, but it isn't. Or, it's the greatest amount of convolution possible. And Witsit he will eat it up because he loves attention. Sorry, John.
I was just going to say somebody should have told Darren you don't ever go full retard, but at the moment's lost.
Yeah, but you see what I'm getting at. Witsit is willing to get into bed with the enemy at any point if it furthers his agenda. He's willing to do it. At least David Weiss, he might make statements like it could be a really big war, but at least David Weiss, at present, isn't going to be getting buddy with the ballers. But Witsit is totally on for getting buddy with the ballers, even if it's just the geocentric ballers. You know what I mean? But if he's willing to have Roberts and Jennings on and talk about geocentrism and be buddies with Roberts and Jennings, he's also willing to have some other baller on and talk with him about ether. And they're both ether, believers. Just like him and St. Jennings are both geocentric believers or whatever. Right? Now, I'm a geocentric knower, but he's a geocentric believer. Because Witsit is willing to just go in any direction. And I used him because he's the figurehead when it comes to ether. If people want to ask, yeah, he's a politician. Like it's not even Ken Wheeler anymore. It's Witsit. Witsit has got the biggest voice when it comes to ether. It's on the internet now. No scruples, no loyalty, no. You can't. It's not even about that. He's just willing to go in any direction to promote himself.
To survive the next election.
Yeah, exactly. That's all he's trying to do at present, is survive the election that happened in December 2024. He's trying to, up his PR in some way. If you're not around, people forget about you. And people have short memories. And he's smart enough to know that. He's smart enough to know that people have short memories. I don't have a short memory, but he's not worried about me because no one gets to hear me. You know what I mean? Or other people on this show. Most people don't get to hear us, or they won't listen to us because we're meanies, right? Who attack other flat earthers who are absolute liars. That's what we attack, and bullshitters.
Well,
but no,
we do seem to be the central ripple, the ones that they're responding to by proxy in a straw man with someone else. Like we say, there's no gas pressure without a container. And they'll say, well, you can't have force in a vacuum without something to push upon, right? And then they have the argument, you just skip past the statement of fact so you can go have an argument about nonsense. But it's still in response to that problem.
Well, people want to prove that vacuum that rockets don't work in a vacuum. Because no matter how much you tell them or how many times you tell them that who cares whether they work in a vacuum or not, right? Well, the vacuum they're claiming can't exist, right? They don't want to know. They want to go and argue with a baller about whether rockets work in a vacuum. And I have to say, the flat earthers have proven that it doesn't, right? But who cares? It doesn't matter. It's a red herring. But they want to have that argument. What can you do? You know, we're the bad guys. We're the bad guys who point out the ether doesn't exist. We're the bad guys that point out that that's a stupid argument to have. We're the bad guys. You know, that's why, you know, flat earthers, like the other day with Angels of Light, people complaining like about Nathan's, you know, anger or Nathan's, you know, whatever. Okay, I get it, right? But that takes away from, you know, that Angels of Light is a scumbag liar. What about that? Should that not be the main
Brian.
point?
Yep.
That has to be the
should
main
be the
point.
main point.
Yeah. You can say what you want about Nathan, but that should be the main point.
Yeah, because if anybody listens to that right through, like Nathan only got to David Weiss yet. If you listen to that thing step by step right through, there's no way that this guy's not exactly what Brian said him to be.
Yeah, but you don't come to someone saying you're here to learn and then make knowledge claims. You know, that's antithetical.
Right.
It just don't even, I don't know.
And then you want to come and sit down and try to be an intellectual at a debate with a freaking engineering, whatever the guy is, physicist. And every time the guy, I want you to watch that video, Brian and John, and you see how many times this guy is begging for them to bring it home and show him a flat earth, and they don't.
I reviewed that FED last night. It was disheartening.
No, I want you to watch the video. It just did not the review. The video, David Weiss, the engineer, and Angels of Weiss. You watch that for yourself. You see how many times this engineer was so close. And he's like, all right, but how does that prove flat earth? Well, he's begging for them to give him a proof of flat earth. And they refuse to go to the measurements. Refuse.
Can I just say, regarding Angels of Light, is it also the point that we feel a bit used because he's turned up here, had his arguments refined? I don't know how he's supported the show in any way. I haven't seen him with a super chat or anything like that. But then when he's gone away with David Weiss, he hasn't used the arguments that he knows are correct and to be true to boost his own personality or his own stature within the community, within the topic. And then not crediting here, it is a bit of a backstab, to be honest, because David Weiss is hostile to this community. So he's used this community to refine his own arguments, but then not use them and credit to where he's got it from. So yeah, it's all a bit slimy, to be honest.
Oh, look. Why is David Weiss not saying, hey, Brian's Logic, I want you to come on the show with me? Because he can't get away with the nonsense he gets away with Angels of Light. Or Nathan, why don't you come on the show with me? Because he knows he ain't going to be able to talk about that bull crap that you can't validate. So he's picking and choosing who's not going to interfere with his little freaking exploitation of a community.
Well, he wants someone, even if they disagree with him, who will agree to disagree. Whereas we won't do that, any of us. We're not going to agree. If he says that, dielectric acceleration, and I go, no. I'm not going to agree to disagree on that rubbish. You know, if he says ether, I'm not going to agree to disagree. You know, if he starts saying there's a mine in South Africa that's the coolest super deep borehole, I'm not going to go, hang on, Dave. I'm not going to go, well, that's what Dave said. No, I'm not going to do that. So I'm no good as a power nerd. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so we don't fit his jib. But guess what?
Adam had said that I'd, should have slowed down and showed how he was duplicitous with exposés from the video he was in, Angels. However, after Neil took me through timestamps yesterday, when Neil got to listen to what he says at the end when he's talking about free energy, if I'd have heard that in advance of him coming, he wouldn't have just got both barrels, he'd have got the full arsenal.
Yeah, because he told you what he was all about. And there's more.
Yeah, and rightly so.
Free energy, really?
Yeah, that's what he said.
A
That's the
utopia,
potential.
John, with free energy.
Yeah, he said we'll be living in a utopia. Free energy.
Right. The first law of thermodynamics violating free energy. That's going to friggin' happen, ain't it? God bless.
Yeah, it's a violation. The violation of the first law of thermodynamics, free energy. Yeah. Energy from nothing.
And he was acting shocked when you were giving him, both barrels. He was acting shocked, like, wow. Like you really thought, you see, he tried to come in here. I've said this about 5 times before. He tried to come in here the next day, but that was when you had your tooth issue, Nathan. And he was just me and him, and he was telling me, I did something with David Weiss. I was like, why would you do that? Oh, you see me on TikTok. So he wanted to get in here and he wanted you to review the video, but he wanted to be here, to get that preemptive, interference. Because he knew.
Yeah, right.
He
Run
knew.
and cover.
Right.
Listen, he knows he's talking rubbish. When you start telling an audience that basically, well, I can't remember his exact words, but he said that what was it? He said, Neil, you have a better memory for me. How we led to would be we should be in a utopia with free energy, or we would be in a utopia with free energy if certain things. There was an ether, I think, involved as well. So he promoted a utopia with free energy. That means like energy is just like you don't have to do anything to have it. You don't have to pay for it. You know what I mean? It's just like the one thing in the world that human beings have always had to struggle for is energy, whether it be cutting wood to light a fire, whether it be, producing gasoline, diesel, you know what I mean, oil, whether it be electricity, whatever it is, you must struggle to get that to happen, right? And there's a reason for that, right? In 2025, are you telling me they're hiding free energy? Nah.
Yes, Brian. They have the first law of thermodynamics violating free energy in their back pocket. They just wouldn't want to whip it out, because they're the all-powerful authority that knows the truth, but they keep it hidden.
Hiding God and hiding free energy.
Yeah,
I see.
So you don't have to assess how stupid you were for not recognising that every Earth measurement you've ever made ever was flat. And every example of a ball that you thought you were making also used those flat Earth measurements. You don't have to recognise that. It's the powers that should not be. And they weren't even hiding flat Earth free. It wasn't even about flat Earth. It was about the free energy. Yeah, don't feel dumb. Yeah. No, off your pop, you stupid retard.
And David Weiss going back to taking back your power. Oh, he makes me want to vomit. What you do is you take back your power. Who am I taking it back from?
NWA? Didn't they say fight the power?
No, that was Public Enemy.
Oh, it was Public Enemy. Yes.
Fights the power.
Well, it's kind of funny because the moment you become a heliocentrist, or a philosophical naturalist, you're taking power away from the truth so that you become the authority. You step into that role yourself. So Is that the power he's speaking about?
No, you don't take it that
turning
far.
down?
That's where you've gone too far. If you do that, they'd realise how dumb they were for not recognising how flat it was. So that's just that one step too far. Got to keep it where the blame is firmly on the people who lied about the free energy. Now, because there isn't free energy, you're never going to get to the people who lied about it, because there isn't any. But that's just where it needs to be. Perfect.
Well, I think we got it all figured out. I think everybody has plausible deniability now.
Yeah, no, they can just let it out. I think it needs another 25, 30 years. A few more people need to die.
Well, it's a continuous scam. If you're promoting free energy and a load of nonsense around it like ether, and your claim is that it's constantly being hidden and they're hiding the ether, they're not hiding the ether, it doesn't exist. But it's a handy scam to tell an audience that they're hiding it. And that's why, it's not being promoted in the mainstream,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Just like they did with the
It's
Irish,
like-
with those pots of gold and the rainbows. You know what I'm talking about.
Pots of gold. You're racist.
Why, there's not a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
Have you
can
found the
think
end
of
of
it
the
as
rainbow?
Yeah, it's there, Neil. You just got to chase it. They've been hiding it from you the
Yeah,
whole
seriously,
time.
find the end of the rainbow.
They've been hiding it from
Find your
us.
pot of gold.
They hide it from us.
Take the elevation angle at 0 and, just calculate that out. 90 times, what is that, to get it in nautical miles?
60?
60?
Yeah, 90 times 60, and there's your pot of gold in that direction.
I mean, come on, they got songs about it. Somewhere over the rainbow.
But that's not under the rainbow. That's
No,
not
that was
where, you know what I mean?
That was a woman's quest for shoes, Neil.
It is, Nathan, even though Nathan was having the joke at me, it is the perfect example. Because you'll never find, you see, it's like for free energy, they need ether, right? But they're hiding the ether. No, they're not. Ether just doesn't exist. So that means the free energy that they're claiming will happen because of the ether or due to ether or connected to ether can never happen if ether doesn't exist. Now, I require finding the bottom of the rainbow, right, to get the pot of gold. But the bottom of the rainbow can't be found because it doesn't exist. There is no bottom to the rainbow. So how am I supposed to find the pot of gold?
That doesn't exist.
Well, the pot of gold can't exist if the bottom of the rainbow can't exist because it's dependent. Its antecedent is the bottom of the rainbow. You know what I mean? So free energy's antecedent is ether. And if ether doesn't exist, then free energy doesn't exist.
I like it.
Oh, well.
Isn't it sort of like the globe's antecedent is elevation angle measurement? Not quite.
Well, no,
Yeah.
a curved baseline elevation angle.
Yeah, the globe is measured flat.
Well, no, because the elevation angle does exist, you see. The antecedent for a globe is a curved elevation angle, but that doesn't exist. So the globe doesn't exist. Because if that existed, then the globe might exist. But that doesn't exist, so the globe doesn't exist. Like, there's no point talking about actual elevation angles because they're not going to give you a globe.
Wait a second. So somebody won the David Weiss challenge? No, this can't be true. There's a video
No.
of freaking.
Go on, Neil.
Well, what's this video? DD posted it. Says, I haven't seen this. McToon thinks he's won David Weiss's Bitcoin challenge.
Well, that'd be interesting to check out. That would mean he has to have globe proof.
It's
Would
in
it
Master
not?
B. You should play it, Nathan.
Yeah,
What's
let's see
going
what
on?
it is.
I'm not in the mood for a McToon video where he's claiming that he's got a globe evidence. We've already pointed out to Toon that he measures
Thank
Earth
God.
flat.
Is Adam there?
It'll be projection,
Adam-
mate. He's put out a 10k challenge, and we've pointed out that you need a flat Earth measurement for it. So what's he doing? Saying that he's got a rebuttal to Dave Weiss's challenge. Again, why has Dave Weiss got a challenge? This isn't a debate, but yet Dave's got a challenge about it. He's helping them. That's the point, isn't it? Dave's there to throw them up so they can bat them out the park.
Well, in fairness, I have 2 different challenges on my channel. There's no money involved, but they are challenges. But the ballers won't go near them.
If I'm in the mood, we'll cover it tomorrow.
You won't be in the mood tomorrow. Just press play, for God's sake. Get into it.
Nah.
And with that, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, I'll stay around for another 5-10 minutes. I've got no microphones to post. No one's bought anything for about 24 hours.
Are you saying if I buy a microphone, they play the MCTO video? is that what you're trying to really hear?
No, I'm saying I'll still hang around for another 10 or so minutes because that is actually a lie. There was actually a microphone that sold this morning just before I took my kid to a class. But that's already gone to the shop, so there's nothing for me to do with that regard. So I'll just sit here and, you know.
He's playing Fortnite, and he's doing well at the moment. Leave him alone.
That's not true. That is a good idea. I might do just that.
Well, that's okay, John, because that means he'll probably just leave the show going a bit. You know, otherwise he'll sit here, and as soon as there is a 4-second lull, right, he's going to go. And with that, you know what I mean? That's what's going to happen.
It's not 4-second lull. It's if there's a 7 or 8-second lull.
Nah, I said 4 being generous. It's normally about 3.
And with that,
Right, that video I posted on the weekend, did you manage to watch that? What do you reckon?
Which one is that? Is that the one with the 2 women? Sensual.
No, the American gentleman.
the one with the cup, the 2 women.
Freaking man.
The guy who said he was he done space engineering.
I love a good second law of thermodynamics violating engineer.
But he may be talking about airplanes because they operate in space.
That's true. Length, breadth, and depth. Maybe that's what he's talking about. You know he's not talking about that, don't you?
Wait, if I don't build it up, you won't play it. No, don't let me be the last one that speaks. No.
Yeah, come on, don't focus on videos because he's not willing to play them. We need an Adam or a Kiwi here, and they're not here. He's not willing to play them. So if you focus on the video, that will only take away from conversation. That'll give him the 5-second lull he needs to end the show. Can't do that. We need to be smarter. We need to work a smarter tactics here.
Well, he may be exposing. I'm just listening to a little bit. He may be exposing David Weiss.
Who maybe?
McToon.
Nah, Dave Weiss has got a challenge that if you prove a globe, he'll give you 2 Bitcoin. So if you're saying he's got a globe proof, then that's what he's going to be doing, isn't he? Saying I've got a globe proof and Dave Weiss should therefore give me 2 Bitcoin.
Yeah, he's on about flight, what do you call it?
Flight routes or flight.
Yeah, the flight
planning.
routes. Yeah, he's
Flight
talking
planning. That's not a globe proof. The idiot. They're pathetic,
Oh, you-
aren't they?
Yeah, you use latitude and longitude to,
Oh dear.
travel a distance in a direction. Yeah, that'll really help you out on a globe, won't it?
Well, if you remove the Habermas formula, what happens then? Oh no, because that's the real antecedent of the globe, isn't it? The Habermas formula. Or the Vincenti formula, any of those. But we just remove the Habermas and that's it, it's over.
Yeah, the Haversine's how they project a centralized point out onto a sphere. But you still need that centralized point to be measured from the point of reference.
Well, what's funny is that they use the Haversine formula in aviation, right? Now, there's also the Vincenti formula. And the Vincenti formula treats the Earth as an oblate spheroid, right? But thing is that why is there one for a perfect sphere, which is the Haversine formula, and one for the Vincenti, or one for an oblate spheroid, right? So they're calculating for two different shapes, and they're trying to claim a globe proof. The fact that you can calculate for two completely different shapes, like that alone means you're not addressing the actual geometry of the world. The fact that you can change the shape. You know what I mean? Because an oblate spheroid is not a sphere. It's an oblate spheroid. They're not the same shape, different dimensions. The fact that you can use both the Vincenti formula and the Haversine formula for different things, if that involves navigation and stuff like that, if that doesn't tell you, like that, if that doesn't tell you that you don't have geometry, I don't know what would. What would?
Well, there's people coming out of the woodworks. There's a video. I got bored, so I disproved flat Earth. These are only the little storms that are coming.
Well, Neil, I got bored and disproved the existence of my children just a little while ago.
Yeah, me and John were talking about that. Well, I mentioned that title because it's so sensual. I posted it. And I said I just had to click through and I couldn't see any debunk of anything. But the title, it shows that this guy, whoever he is under serious pressure from us. Maybe not us specifically, but from Flat Earth. Because to say so flippantly, I got bored, so I debunked Flat Earth, that means that you didn't get bored, that you were tossing and turning and couldn't sleep. That's what that means. And you came out with a heap of rubbish that you're hoping would be enough pain relief to help you to sleep that night.
Yeah, like that lady yesterday. The lady, she was in pain. Squinty, I call her. Constantly squinting. She was rubbing her temple
Squinty
on some of
face.
the parts. It's like she's in serious pain.
Yeah, she's rubbing her temple like she's a headache from it. Yeah, because it's real.
Yeah, same thing with my kids. Same exact thing. They don't exist. As I rub my temples.
So when people start telling you that your kids actually do exist, you start squinting your face and rubbing your temples. That's what you're saying, John.
Well, yeah, now that I'm accept without evidence that my children do not exist, or in the face of contrary evidence, it causes a little bit of sometimes nosebleeds accompany it.
Okay, so then when I'm letting you know that they sell duct tape on some of the shows, I mean, come on.
Yeah, you're saying that they do exist and I need to tape them up. That's not helping me.
Tape their mouths up, not them up. That would be horrible to tape up a child. But you can wrap tape around their mouth. That'll be fine.
But I have to presuppose they exist when you say that, and that's not what I want to do.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
the title of the video, I got bored, so I decided to bunk Flat Earth, is the most heap of rubbish title ever. No, you did not, right? You weren't able to sleep, right? And so you decided to strawman the hell, probably. I asked him, what, I think it was just nonsense. He brought, oh God, Simon Robot and God knows whatever other rubbish. He brought up 7 over 6 or whatever rubbish, right? You weren't able to sleep and you think this is going to help you. It's not going to help you. You are heading for a world of problems, my son. You didn't get bored. You got panicky. That's what you got. and you're hoping for someone to take that panic away, and you try to take your own panic away, and you won't. It's flat and stationary and enclosed. No way out. Sorry.
You know what would really help him is if somebody come along and claimed that they knew what the outside boundary conditions of this world we inhabit are, and made that as a positive claim. That would help out a lot as far as
Yeah.
And then top it off
that.
by saying there's free energy.
Absolutely. Then if someone did that, I could say, see, my kids don't exist because free energy doesn't exist.
Is that where this is going?
And then
We were
you're
wrong.
because you're bored.
Well, if we were wrong about the free energy, we must have been wrong about the flat Earth too.
You don't see it that happening that way.
Yeah, of course.
So isn't that what the whole TFE was about? Right? Oh, trying to give people the impression they were wrong about a 24-hour sun. Oh, well, then, you were wrong about the flat Earth. That's all it is. The whole TFE. That's the whole purpose of it.
Exactly. But we knew that anyway. That's why you couldn't invite certain people. You can only invite the people that are going to benefit you and your little plan.
Yeah.
We contradict
So,
that.
Well, you know, if you're told that if there is a 24-hour sun, it means that the Earth is a globe and isn't flat, and you accept that, then as soon as they show you a 24-hour sun, you're just going to go, oh, it mustn't be flat then. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to be that naive of a person, then that's, you know, you're not even going to question whether you're getting an actual 24-hour sun or who's giving it to you or anything. You're just going to go, okay then, because 24-hour sun in Antarctica means globe, right? If you're going to accept that kind of rubbish, then like you're the same idiot who's going to go, oh, well, there isn't free energy. Oh, well, it's not flat then. Do you know what I mean? You're that same idiot. Do you know what I mean? It's like when there being free energy or 24-hour sun in Antarctica has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on the true geometry of the world.
Yeah, but Brian, they show you on a diagram. They show you it. They could get a toy globe and they could spin that toy globe and hold the sun and show you how, see, this is how it happens on a globe with 24-hour sun. Now show me that on your flat model. Oh, you can't. Therefore, glob.
Well, they could also say that, look, there isn't an Antarctic ice wall in this part. That means the Earth your whole flat Earth is gone. You know, if someone was claiming that there is an Antarctic ice wall, if they show a portion of the Antarctic ice wall that isn't there, well then, or something. God knows what kind of nonsense. Same thing, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, and like Jaron's not, like you say, he's not stupid, right? He's shown himself to be not stupid and understanding when he wants to. So you mean to tell me that he can't understand measurements? Like, really?
well, he's obviously gone to Home Depot. They have plenty of tools you can measure with there. So he has to understand measurement.
It's like the whole thing stinks, man. It's got a stench. You know, when you go to in the Bronx and you go to pick up fish, if you got a restaurant, I had to do that a couple of times. Go pick up fish early in the morning, and the stench that comes off that pier. That's the stench I'm getting from him.
Something fishy about him, huh?
Definitely. Stinks.
Well, it is convenient for TFE that the same guy that got on a Behind the Curve documentary was available at that time for you know, a trip to Antarctica.
That's total coincidence. Just very, very convenient.
Well, if you wouldn't have turned down the invitation, Nathan, maybe things would be different.
The invitation that I didn't turn down.
Oh no, I could go find a bunch of videos right now that some gentleman says that he invited you and you declined. That's all you need.
Was he a travelling man?
Oh yes, he was a traveling man.
That's an inside joke that I did not get.
You don't know the relevance of that, John, do you? That joke?
I feel like it's a dig at the Masons, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because Will Duffy was asked. Who was it asking, Nathan? It was the guy on Modern Day Debates.
Yeah, the guy
Are
who
you a
owns Modern
travelling
Day
man?
Debates.
He asked him, are you a travelling man? And
Yes.
he said, yes.
Said, yes, I am a travelling man.
Well, that's it. The Masons are the cause of all this.
Yeah, you can blame them and then you don't have to feel stupid about not noticing how Earth was measured flat.
Right. It's not like they hid it, you know. It's just you accepted fallacious logic and because you're dumb. Or they were evil. They were evil.
It was their fault. Exactly. Leading you astray with their lies about the Earth being a ball. How dare they? With that, I am going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.